Good afternoon, boys and girls. It's the 29th of this January. What month are we in again? And perpetual snow. Yeah, we've got, thanks to global warming, we have record volumes of snow and had record cold waves, two of them. So, just kind of getting through this global warming winter. A few more global warming winters like these, and we'll have mammoths walking around again, and Neanderthals coming through hunting. So yeah, keep believing everything that the Davis crowd tells us. So, where do we begin? There's so many things happening. Let's start with a stalemate. It's a stalemate for the Western public consumption. Russia is continuing to move forward across the front, small chunks of territory here or there. Last Wednesday, there was a big jump where across the front, 51 square kilometers were taken in one day. Just so you understand, Ukraine blew 100,000 men, 120,000 men, about 80,000 of them dead, to conquer 120 square kilometers. And that took them 4 months. So in one day, Russia was able to take 51 square kilometers. And by the way, Ukraine was taking 120, and you were all told about how great that was because they blew out that little box to be this big on the map. And when it blows out to full scale, the box is like that big on the map. So while you were being told all that, Russia took 300 kilometers in the north. So, it's been like that. Avdiivka is still tactically surrounded, which means though there are routes that they can still bring in because it's not a full circle, all those routes are under fire control by Russian forces. Ukrainians desperately try to knock Russian forces out of northern portion of encirclement, countless attacks, and they were all thrown back. So far, everything's going good. Now, the plane that was taken down. There were 65 Ukrainian POWs, 12 of them from the Azov brigade, the IL76 that was coming in, 6 crew, 3 guards. So the crew could have catapulted it out, but they rode that plane into the ground to make sure it didn't hit the village they were flying over. Took it into a field. So these guys died heroes, saving people's lives. And Ukraine were the terroristic scum that shot down and killed their own guys. They knew the plane was coming because that was coordinated. They knew how the plane was coming. There were 2 planes. The second plane turned around. They had 80 more guys on it. Now, the interesting thing gets to a point where it's been reported that on that plane were supposed to have been a member of parliament and a general, Yegorov, who are 2 primary negotiators. I mentioned this in RT the other day when this happened. I got to see some videos right off that field. There was an RT journalist that happened to be in Belgrade. He made it over within 20 minutes of the crash, 25 minutes. They let him in. Yeah, there was chunks of bodies, destroyed metal. The interesting part was the whole field was covered in a spray of blood, literally. It basically rained blood from that explosion. I've never seen videos quite like that before, where the field was just splotches of blood and drops of blood everywhere. But I mean, I'm not talking about just around the crash, but a good 100 meters away from the crash. So, yeah. And Ukraine was celebrating, and then there weren't S-300 missiles on their S-400 missiles. There were people. Wait, there were our people. It was right for Zelensky's birthday, by the way. So, what my thesis is Ukraine was trying to kill off the 2 negotiators. They were basically following the same path as Netanyahu, who had the Hamas negotiator over hostages murdered along with his family, sending a missile right into his house in Lebanon. So that kind of ended a lot of those negotiations real quick. So it took the burden off of Netanyahu. So Zelensky's pulling the same playbook. And Bodanov, who's the head terrorist operator in Ukraine, who's formerly head of the SBU, the security services in charge of murdering off any opposition politicians, anybody else, is now head of the military, even though Zaluzhny isn't giving up his post either. So there's a little bit of a Mexican standoff right there. That'll be interesting to follow. So now we've got the U.S., the neocons are scratching their nuts with joy that they're going to finally get their Iran-American war. Now, let me put it this way. The U.S. is going to be at max distance to launch any kind of strikes off those aircraft carriers, because those aircraft carriers are not going to get anywhere near the Persian Gulf. Never mind, there's absolutely no maneuver space in the Persian Gulf. They will be sunk in space. In that space, if they ever go in. Any American ship in the Persian Gulf will die. Any American ships at Abu Dhabi in the port will die once this war starts, because they will get literally hundreds of missiles sent at a time per ship. There's no AWACS system that's going to be able to stop that. I mean, just it isn't. So any of those sailors on there are dead. That's just how it's going to be. There's no maneuver place. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to get distance. So if they're flying... trying to strike out of the Red Sea, they're going to be at max distance before they're bingo fuel and having to come back or crash land. So they're getting minimal efficiency. What's going to happen is all American forces in that area are going to start getting hit by missiles fire, ballistic missile fire that's GPS or GLONASS or whichever navigation system they're using targeted in. And Iran's already proven back under Trump. They not only can hit the U.S. bases, they can hit the buildings they're going to say they're going to hit. So the neocons are going to finally get their big war with Iran. And the Americans are going to get their big casualty rates with Iran. Because guess what? Once that starts, Hezbollah is going to be fully in on this too. And those American aircraft carriers sitting around Cyprus are suddenly coming in within range of the more long-distance anti-ship missiles. So that's all going to get real interesting real quick. But hey, it'll take everybody's attention off of Texas and the border, where you're going to get another 2-3 million, if not 4 or 5 million illegals pushed in over the next 6 months to really push the demographics and mass amnesty. You don't think that's going to happen? Keep snorting the coke. Yeah, right, it's going to happen. And Texas is going to wind up being a blue state because they're going to get 5-6 million new voters out of thin air. So basically, you're screwed. There are ways to stop this, but the vast majority of Americans aren't ready for that. They're still comfortably fat, lazy, and stupid in front of their television sets, believing half the crap, actually believing most of the crap that they're still being fed. Oh well, that's how societies die. And you're not going to be the first, and you're going to be the last. You either defend what you've got, or you get nothing. Or you get given what your owners decide you deserve to get given. But hey, that's how it is. But I mean, really, I've been bringing everybody down on this side of the world by explaining to them, no, there's not going to be a civil war in the U.S. No, Texas is not going to secede. This is all playing games for elections and nothing more. And in the end, most of the Republicans will make the same deals with most of the Democrats that they've always made, and the citizen is going to get screwed doubly. Double penetration in this case. And nobody's going to give you a benefit of a reach around or even a kiss on the cheek if they're done with you, as they've always done with the American serfs, who still believe that they're the freest people in the world. Oh well, that's what it is. So yeah, so you got that. You got France. France has said they're going to give 60 glide bombs, which are very actually limited glide bombs. 50, glide bombs per month to Ukraine. 2,000 to 3,000 shells, which is basically, at the rate the Ukrainians are firing the shells, that's a day's worth. And just understand, we fire 5 times more than they fire. And we manufacture all that. So France will be able to manufacture to give to Ukraine 1 day's worth at a very limited level of firing. 1/5 of what we fire. France is manufacturing about 20,000, 30,000 shells, and they're stockpiling the majority of it for the big war that's coming. So we'll be happy to take those shells off the surrendering French army. Or blow them up while the French army's still carrying them. Oh well. We basically took out about 60 Mercs in Kharkiv, a majority of which were French. Well, a lot of them were from what the reports are coming in were not French. They were actually Russian and Ukrainian foreign legionnaires who were French contractors. The French Foreign Legion, quote, released them. though they're still exactly under French Foreign Legion contract, just under a little cover, including some general's son that got whacked. And France was given notice that we're going to start whacking every Frenchman that walks over there with a rifle. And for the UK and the US to understand that it's the game's on, basically. Whatever hands off were more or less off the marks, particularly after NATO's marks that were there. Game's over. Game is on, the hunt's on, and they're going to be exterminated. America's basically lost already about 400 soldiers. Even though Lindsey Graham is lying through his teeth and telling you nothing, nobody's lost anybody. Americans have died. It's all Ukrainians dying so Americans can have more jobs. It's a great deal. We get to degrade Russia, and yet the Russian military is now twice as strong as it was before this started. And there's only about 20% of the Russian military being involved in the fight so far. The rest is being amassed and prepared for either a major move or for whenever NATO decides to go bingo. Bingo on intelligence, when intelligence fully runs out and NATO decides to go to war and send the balloon up. And that's probably going to come around the 24th of February, where Stalwart Defender kicks off, and they're amassing 90,000 NATO troops on the Polish-Ukrainian border. These troops are more likely to go over the border, and then we'll have what we'll have. The Poles really want those western provinces. And Hungary wants Galicia too, and Romania wants its chunk, and Slovakia wants its chunk. But once those Poles go in, the U.S. will be able to push a conflict between Poland and Russia and expand the whole war into Europe-wide. So Europe gets to die. It's pretty much almost over. The peace part is, the pseudo-peace part is almost over. The dying's going to be going on for quite some while longer. There won't be much of the EU left when this is all said and done. But oh well. Somebody's got to pay the bill for American hegemony. Might as well be the Europeans. Nobody deserves it more, except the Yanks themselves for this. But hey, that's how it goes. So what else? What else can we talk about? The happy news that keeps rolling out. So yeah, the French are also going to be providing 57 more. 57 more Caesar guns, artillery pieces. Of course, they haven't been built yet, so they have to actually build them. So it'll be a trickle, a couple here, a couple there. Quite a few of them are getting killed in the process with their crews. So we'll just continue shelling out. In the next month or so, I'll be heading down to the front lines again. Doing my part. Go visit some relatives too who live on the front line. Been under shelling for 9 years by the UK Nazis. So things are going on. Things roll along. Tell me what you think. What's in your part of the world? How the U.S. is pushing you into recession, depression, and world war. Leave some comments. It's always interesting. Especially with our Serbian friends. I always had a lot of Serbian friends in the U.S. At our church, we know Orthodox churches, so mixed denomination churches. So I got a lot of respect for Serbs, and I got a lot of respect from Serbs from serving in Bosnia. All three sides whacked each other. That was the Civil War. But when the Serbs gave their word, they kept their word. So you could always count on that. Mucho respect for the Serbs. Not sure why you tolerate Vucic, who's an EU clown. Who, I think if he knew he wasn't going to get whacked for it, he would happily give up Kosovo in a heartbeat to get some EU cred. But oh well. And maybe Croatia these days. Croatia seems to have more or less gotten its head on its shoulders. It doesn't want to repeat of World War II. And doesn't feel like dying against Russian Slavs. Croatian Slavs. As for Czech Slavs and Pole Slavs, they'd be happy to go fight with Russia, and that's the only thing they have left in their lives worth living for. It seems like so they're going to get it because they're going to get it. So we'll live and see. Unfortunately, since they can't live in peace, then there's no living. We'll see. So anyway, so that's how things are rolling along. The economy in Russia is doing great this year. Unemployment is a record low. We do need people. So if you want a job, start learning Russian, at least baseline. If you've got engineering degrees or anything like that. If you've got a large family, you want to farm. Check out some of the different channels that have been popping up all over YouTube. There's Australian families. There's a Canadian family with like 8 kids that came over in Nizhny Novgorod region. They're going to get farmland to farm. There's a lot of people starting to trickle over. They're starting to figure things out. Run away from the globalists and have a chance for their kids to grow up with their natural genitalia still attached to them, the ones they were born with. So, go with God. God bless.